I actually hate traveling, I can say that.
Your suitcase was incredibly heavy.
Yeah! I will put on 10 sweaters if I need to. Who chooses an aisle seat?
They're like yelling our name like over the PA, trying to wave us down and all this.
We're in the middle of freaking Rome. Where are you gonna sleep? And I was like, right here, under this fountain.
You ended up completely passing out on the ground.
Oh my god, get me out of this situation.
Hey there everybody, welcome back. My name's T.
And I'm Kay. And we are T&Kay the Spectrum Way.
So today's topic, we're going to talk about traveling. So we had the exciting opportunity last year to do a European cruise, and where there was a lot of things that we thought about and we would like to kind of share, because at the time we didn't actually know that you were autistic at the time.
Yes.
So,
I didn't know, and you didn't know,
yeah.
And I didn't know, and you didn't know, and I didn't know, so...
We were kind of navigating, our travel experiences without that knowledge, so, a lot of things kind of came up, and we kind of wanted just to share some of our experiences,
sure.
And, what that looked like.
So I will start at the beginning. I will say that, when it comes to traveling, I can't say I like it. I actually hate traveling. I can say that. I've never liked traveling. I always find that I get sick. I get really anxious. Before I go, I always get sick. And, without fail, I get, vertigo. I get nauseous. Just all of these things. My anxiety goes through the roof. I miss home. I miss, my family. I miss my animals. I just... feel so uncomfortable.
What was the extent of your travel experience before we went on our cruise? We did a 14-day kind of start to finish vacation. So what was your experiences of traveling before that?
So I've been to Miami, I've been to Germany, I've been to Russia, I've been many places, and I would say every single one I got sick, every single one I wanted to go home, every single time it was just way too much. I never wanted to be there, I guess. And I've been Mexico and California, tons of places, San Francisco, everywhere. Not everywhere, but I've done enough traveling to know that I don't like it, I guess. But I always thought that it was the person I traveled with. So I was if you meet the right person, maybe it won't be like that. Didn't know how it would be, but he brought up the idea, and I immediately was I think I made an excuse at the time. I was like, oh, I can't afford it or something.
Yeah. And I was I basically was yeah, don't worry, I'll pay for it. Just let's go on a cruise, let's have fun.
And then I was okay, well, that didn't work. And I was can't we just travel Canada or BC? There's so many beautiful spots here in our province. And he wants to go to the Mediterranean.
Yeah, you definitely, I think you generally like to stay close to home, which is definitely where your preference was.
I'm a homebody for sure.
Yes. So this was quite the trip that we had planned. So
yeah.
I think the thing that kind of made it easier was that we had a lot of time to kind of prep it.
Yes.
So we knew probably almost 7 months ahead of time that we were going to go on this trip. So now knowing that you're autistic, having that time to kind of process what's going to go on and everything, I think definitely helped you.
It helped, but I would still say it stressed me out for that 7 months as well. Because all the time I was asking you what ifs. What if we break up in Rome? What are we doing then? What if you leave me? What if I lose you? What if my phone doesn't work? What if this happens? And he just was so great at answering all of those questions and never rolling his eyes once at how many ridiculous what ifs I came up with.
So I think the first thing we started off is we went out, we bought some matching suitcases, which were super cute, and
he was trying to make it fun for me because I was so anxious. He was we'll get matching suitcases, which is every girl's dream. So I was yay, we get to have matching suitcases and be that couple. I was excited about that.
So I think we started packing very early,
yes.
very, very early, and talk to us about your packing experience, honey.
Well, I was really stressed because I knew there'd be a lot of walking. Everyone tells me that when you go on cruises, you walk a lot, and I'm not one for exercise. I don't really like, walking and stuff. Come here, The bubsh is squatching at the door, so we're just going to bring her up. Okay. And lots of, like, yeah, like, I was worried about that, and I was like, do I have the proper shoes? And then I was also like, well, I gotta look cute, because my outfit's gotta look cute and stuff. I'm like, he's an amateur photographer, so he loves to take photos, and I love being his model, so that's really fun. It's one of the things we do for fun on the side, just like the
So
two
it
of us.
ended up that, because you had come up with all these scenarios, these possible scenarios in your head about, like, what you could need, your suitcase was incredibly heavy.
Yeah, and usually, you go and they'll be like, it's fine, it's like 5 pounds over, whatever. They weren't like that. And we were definitely those people in line because T was like, okay, whatever, I'll just pay the extra. I'm like, no, F that. No, absolutely not. We will take everything off. I will put on 10 sweaters if I need to. It's fine. We'll wear 2 pairs of shoes. I got a hat on my head. We're good. So we just, like, had the suitcase explode. Now, understand, it was very organized, but it still exploded because it was so overpacked. And he left extra room, so we just moved some stuff over. And then it was fine. Everything was great.
I intentionally left a little bit of extra space inside my suitcase. But yeah, I think the suitcase was heavy because you're playing in your head all these, like, what-if scenarios and trying to be as comfortable as possible.
Yes.
So, we started going down, and we made sure that we arrived really, really early at the airport because, you're definitely prone to being late. So I made sure that we were, very early and on time. So we actually got, to our international flight, and I think we were probably like 3 hours early or something for the
Prone
flight.
to being late, but I think it's called time blindness. So, like, I have this thing where I'm always, like, 15 to 20 minutes late for everything because I always think in my head it's going to take less time than it actually does.
So we get to the airport, and
So we prep for
we're very early. We send our bags through.
How early are we?
Oh, I basically just lied to you and told you the wrong time so that you would be on time.
Uh-huh. By how much?
By about 2 hours or something like that, so that we arrived on time.
Yes.
But yeah, anyways, we're sitting there. We're really early for the flight. Everything's going well. We had to pick our seats when we got in, and the only seat that we had available.
No, that's a lie. That's not what happened. You chose ahead of time thinking that I'd want an aisle seat.
Okay.
That's what happened.
Okay.
And you chose it like a day before.
Okay, I couldn't remember because so many planes you do that all the time. You remember clearly,
yes.
Yeah.
So you chose it like a day before, and I was like, okay, great. Like, what did you choose? Thinking that of course he's gonna choose a window seat. No, he chooses an aisle seat, and I was like, fuck. Who chooses an aisle seat?
I like the aisle seats because you get the extra leg room.
Oh, I hate it. Because then you'll constantly always have people around you. Oh, it's too much. So anyway, I like window seat because then you only have to deal with literally the person in the middle beside you. And like if you don't like them, you just turn to the window and look out the window, and that's your entire trip. You don't have to talk to anyone. You just have to be alone. And I love it. So anyway, didn't get that.
Didn't get our window seat.
So that was very stressful already. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what we pre-picked out. We're sitting there waiting to board our flight, and they start calling people up in the rows to come into the plane. And I think you asked me at the time, you're like, "Do you have any gum?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't bring any gum." And full stop, you turned and you were like, "We need gum now." And I was like, "What do you mean we need gum right now?" And you're like, "I can't get on this plane if I don't have chewing gum."
Right.
And understand, guys, this wasn't an option. This was a necessity, right? We had to go and get gum. So we rushed towards the gift shop, and there's like 4 people ahead of us. We end up, got this old lady going through her like change purse. We basically just like throw some money at the cashier, grab the gum, and we started heading back, and we're really late at this point, and they're like yelling our name like over the PA, trying to wave us down and all this, and we're running, and we were the last people to board our flight. And we were 3 hours early.
Yeah, we were. We're the last people.
Why did you need gum?
I needed gum because every time I get on the flight, I have gum. Like, every time. And I just assumed that everyone did that, but apparently not. Not everyone thinks about gum. So I just assumed, like, you know, he was, like, kind of in charge of all the travel stuff. So I was like, oh, yeah, of course he has gum. He didn't have gum. And he usually does have gum. So it was weird. But so I basically was like, I didn't even really think about it until, of course, I'm boarding the flight. Because then I'm like, I need gum. That's when I usually need gum. And it stems from, like, when I was a very little girl, my stepmom, one time I said, like, my ears were hurting on the flight, and she gave me a piece of gum, and she was like, here, this will help. And I chewed it nonstop, and it worked. And I don't know why my brain wasn't like, oh, you can just chew without gum. Doesn't work for me.
No.
So I'm like, no, I need gum, because if I don't have gum, I can't get on this flight, because I remember how awful it felt without gum. So
it's you know, looking back, we realized that, like, that's a sensory thing. And I don't particularly care if I have gum or not, so it didn't really even occur to me that we needed to get it. Well, it's also
routine, too.
Yes, also routine. So, you know, that definitely, you know, was an interesting experience being late for a flight while being 3 hours early.
Yes. So, skip forward. Okay. And now we're in London. So, we have a layover for 4 hours in London. And he's like, okay, do you want to grab some food? And I'm like, I'm exhausted. I don't know why. I was just, like, utterly exhausted. It was like 3 their time.
Yeah, we hadn't been awake super long, but, like, you were really tired.
Yeah, no, I was done. So I laid across, like, these seats, and, like, looking back, people probably thought I was crazy because I was, like, taking off my shoes, and I was like, I, like, had my, like, sweater over top because it was so bright, and I was just like, oh my god, get me out of this situation. And T went and grabbed us food. I just stayed with all the stuff, and I passed out on the bench like a homeless person.
Yeah.
And
you were out cold for sure.
Yeah, like, I refused to, like, do anything. I was like, no, I really need I need to sleep. I'm so tired. And, like, I am one of those people where, like, if I am tired, I will just pass out in the middle of a conversation. Like, it doesn't matter where I am or what I'm doing. Like, even if I just had dinner or something, if I'm, like, overstimulated or exhausted, I'm just instantly.
Yeah,
so.
you're pretty much pass out right away. So
yeah,
we basically, you know, we tried to you know, we did that. We got on the plane, and then we went from London to Rome.
And then basically the car person dropped us off. We had a driver, which was amazing. That was, like, the only non-stressful thing about the airport was knowing that we had a driver.
I think the stressful thing, more so about, you know, the airport and everything going through, was that everything was in a different language. And of course, to you know, somebody that likes routine and structure and to know what's going on, when you can't even read what's around you, like, that can be very overwhelming.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. But we found the driver, so that was good. And then we got to our hotel, and it was bumping. Like, it was like a nightclub. And we didn't realize, but we had a hotel where the nightclub was underneath it. And the hotel was at the top. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. I'm exhausted. I'm like, how am I going to sleep? But we got upstairs in the room. It
was really funny. We couldn't even find the entrance to the nightclub initially because it
wasn't a nightclub.
So no, it wasn't a full nightclub, but because there were so many people around it, we almost couldn't even find the entrance. But we did find it eventually, and then we
got up to the room. And what did we do? Sorry, I'm, like, trying to hurry him along, and he keeps going back and telling details. I'm like, we literally talked about how we can't do that.
Yeah. So, you know, you like your structure. So we got inside the hotel, and we've been traveling for like 20 hours at this point. So, you know, most people, when they get into, you know, a situation like that, they're like, I just want to go to bed. Like,
so I was so overstimulated by all the people and everything, which I didn't know, that I needed to self-regulate. And so I just, like, put my friggin' heels down and was like, feet down? Heels down?
Dug your heels in.
Dug my heels in. Sorry, I'm really bad at those. But I dug my heels in, and I was like, I need a bath. And he was like, okay, babe. Like, sure, have a bath. And I was like, no. I cannot have a bath. Because routine. Every time I have a bath, it needs to be cleaned right before I get into the bath. Mm-hmm. There were no cleaning supplies. And he's like, babe, like, it's a hotel. They cleaned the bath. And I was like, And I went like this, and I put my finger through the side of it all the way up, and I was like, and I took his finger, and I was like, it's dirty.
Yeah, so...
And you felt it.
I mean, obviously I felt it, yeah.
It was great.
You have a very high standard of clean, and the bathtub is your sacred place, so that is a spot that needs to be especially clean. And we just noticed that, like, Europe has different standards of clean than, like, what we're used to.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't an option. We had to go out.
Because it was, like, what, 3 a.m.?
After traveling for 20 hours. It's, like, yeah, like 3 a.m. or something, and we had to go and find cleaning supplies so that we could clean the bath so that you could go to bed.
Yes. Because I couldn't go to bed without having a bath, and I couldn't have a bath without cleaning supplies. So we found, like, a convenience store, 24-hour convenience store, which was just down the road, so we had to walk to it. That was awful as well. And we went and we grabbed cleaning supplies. We had to guess because it's all in a different language, but it had, like, a picture of a bathtub, so I was like, that must be the cleaning supplies. Who knows if it actually was? Could have been Windex. We don't know. And we went home, and we cleaned it, and you agreed. It was very dirty.
To clean.
I had to, like, unscrew, because it was a jet tub. I unscrewed all the jets, and, like, the
you basically
stuff that
ran
came out of it.
Yeah. And it was gross, no, for sure. Like, there's definitely a very different standard of clean. So, yeah, the whole jacuzzi tub was, like, fully disinfected, fully clean, top to bottom. And we had to do that right after coming out of 2 flights in 20 hours of travel.
Yes, before I could go to sleep. Even though I was exhausted, I couldn't go to sleep without that. That was, like, a pretty big sign that, hey, maybe, you're autistic. But we didn't know what that was or anything like that. Okay, so we finally get to bed the next morning.
The next morning, we also have routines that we normally have here. So, you have to have coffee when you wake up in the morning.
Yes.
And it was to the point where it was a full refusal to go out to get coffee. It had to be purchased and brought to you in bed. And again, this is a routine that we have had since almost day one of our relationship. And it was not about to change just because we were in a different country.
So
the routine was going to be the same.
So he had to get up and go and get coffee before I would get out of bed.
Yeah. And it was really funny because, the coffee is a little bit different down in Europe, too. They don't have, like, what you would consider, like, a normal cup to our standards. I asked for, like, a cappuccino, and I got, like, what could best be described as coffee in a shot glass.
Literally. And I remember him handing it to me and me being like, what is that?
And I was like, good enough, drink it, let's go.
Honestly, though, it was good enough, but it was like, it was not what I was expecting, and I was like, okay, at least it smells the same, at least it, like, does the same stuff. I'm like, okay, I can do it. So I got up, and then I got ready, and then we went for breakfast, and I had a normal coffee. Actually, I ended up really loving cappuccinos after, like, I'm obsessed with them now.
So it was...
that became my, like, normal routine after that, was cappuccino in the morning.
So we were in Rome for, I think, 3 days in all.
Yes,
and we had a lot of really good experiences down there.
So the very first day, because I want to keep going, is we went to the Colosseum, and we did the Trevi Fountain, and we, like, went all out. We walked all over. Now, understand that in my regular life, I do not walk at all. I don't go anywhere. I'm one of those people that I say I'm allergic to exercise because every time I exercise, I break out in a rash. Like, it's like a heat rash where it's like, I start scratching, I get welts all over my skin, and I itch uncontrollably. I find Claritin helps with that, but I didn't know that at the time. I didn't take Claritin, so I didn't know any of that stuff, so I was like, frick, walking, awful. So we went to Colosseum, which was beautiful. I loved the place. We went to the Trevi Fountain, and then we went home, passed out. The next day, we walked around, all that stuff, and then we did a horseback riding tour, which was really cool, and saw, like, the sights, and then we had a food tour planned. It was a walking food tour. So I had walked for 2 days straight,
So we ended up, one of the things that we found in Rome that just happened almost consistently was your level of exhaustion. And, we attribute, this to so many new things and so many new stimuli.
Well, we went so hard with the Colosseum and the Trevi Fountain the first day that I was just, like, utterly exhausted.
You got exhausted, like, incredibly quickly. So you ended up completely passing out before the food tour on the ground for like 2 hours almost.
Can you say the story instead of just saying I passed out? So what happened was we finished the horseback riding tour, okay, and then what happened was we had 2 hours before the food tour started, and he's like, oh, there's like a bunch of shops, it's like a little swap meet area, and because there was a swap meet area, he was like, oh, like, let's walk around. And I was like, I can't anymore. Like, I was having a meltdown. I was like, I cannot go anymore. Like, I need to stop. And I really desperately need to sleep. And so he decided, he's like, I don't know where you're going to sleep, babe. We're in the middle of freaking Rome. Where are you going to sleep? And I was like, right here under this fountain. And there was construction going on, like, all over the place, like, in Rome. And, like, you heard, like, the what are those things? The what are those?
Like jackhammers.
Yeah, the jackhammers. Like, and I didn't even care. I was like, nope, sleeping. So he uncomfortably sat there, and I laid on his lap, and I slept for an hour and a half. Yep. Instantly was passed out, right?
Yep, I think so, yeah. And then
woke up for the food tour, walked, did the food tour, came back, and it was like...
We had to walk from where the food tour ended back to our hotel. And it was about like a 20-minute walk, 25-minute walk, something like that. So we start walking back, and just to put in perspective, like, how, like, abnormal your naps were, we were walking back. I could see the hotel. The hotel was probably 3 minutes away. And you turn to me and you say, I have to nap again.
I was like, I need to sleep now. Like, I'm not going to make it. And, like, it's not like, I'm not saying it in a demanding way. I'm saying it like, if I don't sleep, I'm going to pass out literally walking. You don't understand. That's how utterly exhausted I was. My legs were giving out on me. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm exhausted. I need to sleep. Just thinking about it right now gets me really emotional because it was like freaking, it felt awful.
Yeah, and we were like so close to the hotel. Like I could see the hotel. Like, we were like 2 minutes away from getting into the hotel and going to bed.
He was like,
and we couldn't make it.
He's like, babe, can we like just get, it's 10 more minutes walking, 10 more minutes. And I was like, no, I can't. And so we laid down. It was freaking like 11 o'clock at night by this time. Freaking people thought I was crazy. And I was just laying down in a park bench. It was like, there was a bench.
Yeah, there was a bench.
Like
it was like a park bench, yeah.
Yeah. In Rome, laying on his lap, and he's just on his phone going, can't believe this is happening. Like, we're right there. And I was like, I don't care. And so I had like a good power nap of 20 minutes, and we got up and walked back
to the hotel.
And I was fine. And then the next day was time to leave, and same thing. Even though we had to be out of the hotel early, what happened?
So we were...
You had to get me coffee.
Yeah, I had to get you coffee, before we left. It was the consistent routine, so... Yeah. We got a shuttle that took us down from where our hotel was down to the cruise ship terminal to start the cruise.
And I really... Like, I was exhausted. I just wanted to go home. I didn't want to be there. So before we start the cruise story, let's cap it, because I think we're at the time.
Yeah.
But let's talk about things that we could do to
in hindsight and reflecting, like, what were some of the things that we could have done differently that would have made this process a lot easier?
Okay. First thing would be bringing a carry-on, like, luggage, because... I didn't know this, but lots of people bring a freaking whole entire luggage thing with them. I only had my purse, and you had, like, a little knapsack. But, like, people on the plane, they bring, like, an actual suitcase. And I was like, we wouldn't have been over if we did that. The other thing I would bring is cleaning supplies. Now that I know that that is like a thing that I need to relax is to clean my bathtub, I would bring cleaning supplies 100%. Noise canceling headphones is another thing. I would also, what else would I do? Oh, I wouldn't go so hard. Now that I know, like, what my limits are, I would have done the Coliseum and been like, no, I'm done. I want to go back to the hotel. I need to sleep. And then I would have enjoyed it more because I got so utterly exhausted that, like, a lot of my memory is like brain fog, like where I don't remember everything because I was so tired all the time. So I would say that that would be very important.
Yeah. I think it especially the first days were really hard just because it was so like unknown and there was so much like new things and just like, again, like overstimulation to everything around you that
I would bring snacks.
You got tired.
I'd bring snacks as well. I would look up the area and map it out like before I got there so that I wasn't like completely shocked and was like, oh no. Like, I mean, my geography is awful already. Like, I'm very, very bad at like locations and stuff like that. So I don't know how much it would help, but I think it would have helped a little bit to at least like see my surroundings before being there. Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah, no, for sure.
So
that's travel part 1. We'll talk about the the next part when we go on the cruise ship and all that next time. But I think that's a good little bit of insight from our traveling experiences. And again, like hindsight is 2020. Like now knowing that like you're autistic, we would have done things like, again, like really, really differently.
Oh my gosh, would we have ever?
It definitely would have been structured a lot differently knowing that as well.
I will say, I mean, you heard how like how rigid I was and how like structured everything had to be. And this man here was so patient, so caring, so kind, and so sweet when it came to my needs, and just knowing that like, no, I need to do this to relax. And even knowing that like, not knowing that I had a disability, he still wanted to accommodate is just like beyond me. Like sometimes it takes people knowing that you have a disability for them to actually care and be like, okay, like, I guess like it is a disability, so I'll help you out. Whereas he didn't know and was still just that caring. And I think that made a world of a difference. So, yeah,
for sure. All right, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Again, if you guys have got any stories or your own experiences with traveling, please feel free to share them down in the comments. If you like listening to us, then we'd always appreciate it if you like the video and subscribe to our channel would be awesome.
And thank you so much for like all of the feedback so far. It's been really helpful. I really appreciate everyone just being so kind, because it is very scary being so vulnerable. So I'm very glad that it's being received well.
Okay. Thank you guys so much.
And T&K out.